What I'm about to share with you could save your life if you've ever booked a cruise or are planning to. I'm Erie Hour, and after 6 months of investigation, reviewing leaked documents and listening to survivor testimonies, I uncovered what the cruise lines spent millions trying to keep hidden from the public. The cruise industry earns over $150 billion every year by selling their ships as floating paradises, complete with advanced medical centers and top-tier healthcare. But internal reports and first-hand accounts reveal a far darker reality, one filled with equipment failures, medical disasters, and quiet cover-ups that place millions of passengers in danger every single year. Tonight, I'm revealing 9 documented cases from 2015 to 2023. Real passengers, real consequences, and real medical nightmares that unfolded when cruise ship healthcare systems failed at the worst possible moments. Some details are disturbing, but this 90-minute compilation contains information cruise companies do not want you to hear. Every story is supported by official incident reports, witness statements, and leaked medical records. If you cruise often, or someone you love does, this information could stop a tragedy before it happens. Subscribe and turn on notifications because investigations like this take months, and there are still hidden dangers I haven't finished uncovering. Let's move to our first story where a heart patient learned too late what happens when life-saving equipment stops working. The celebrity eclipse cut through the North Atlantic like a massive steel cathedral, her passengers unaware that their luxury escape was about to turn into a nightmare. Inside the ship's modern medical center, Dr. Amy Foster finished her routine equipment check for the night shift. The monitors glowed steadily, screens filled with perfect readings from machines designed to save lives. Everything appeared flawless. Brenda had waited 2 years for this trip. At 67, the retired librarian from Toronto had saved carefully to surprise her husband Brooks with a premium transatlantic cruise. 3 days into the voyage, as the ship entered rough weather, Brenda felt a familiar flutter in her chest. It was the same warning she had felt before her bypass surgery 2 years earlier. "Brooks, something's wrong," she whispered, gripping the bathroom door as pain spread down her arm. Brooks rushed to her side and saw the color draining from her face, her lips turning faintly blue. After 42 years together, he knew the signs. He grabbed the emergency phone. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. New disturbing stories are uploaded regularly, and the next one might stay with you longer than you expect. Turn on notifications, join the community, and stay tuned for more unsettling tales. The call reached the medical center at 11:47 p.m. Dr. Amy grabbed her emergency kit and hurried through the swaying corridors as the ship battled rising waves. She found Brenda still conscious but struggling to breathe, her pulse weak and uneven. When Dr. Amy checked the portable ECG, her stomach dropped. Brenda's heart rhythm was dangerously unstable. She needed immediate treatment. As they rushed Brenda toward the medical bay, the storm worsened. Waves slammed against the ship, making movement difficult. Inside the medical center, Dr. Amy prepared for defibrillation while nurse Anna Williams powered up the primary unit. Anna had 15 years of experience at sea, but as the ship lurched violently, the lights flickered. Brenda's monitor showed a deadly rhythm. Dr. Amy charged the defibrillator and called clear. When she pressed the buttons, the screen went black. Anna tried again, panic rising, but the machine was dead. A power surge had destroyed it. "Get the backup," Dr. Amy ordered as Brenda's condition worsened. The older backup unit was rushed over, but just as Brenda's body stiffened and her eyes rolled back, the second defibrillator shut down too. Brooks watched helplessly as his wife collapsed. Dr. Amy began CPR immediately, ordering manual ventilation. Then the power failed again. The monitors went dark. The lights shut off. Even the emergency systems failed. They worked by phone flashlight as equipment slid across the floor with every roll of the ship. For hours, Dr. Amy and Anna took turns performing CPR in near darkness. Twice, Brenda's heart restarted, only to fade again without proper monitoring. At 3:17 a.m., Dr. Amy stepped back and quietly pronounced the time of death. Minutes later, the power returned, screens lit up, defibrillators rebooted, ready and functional. Brooks stared at the machines in disbelief. They worked now, too late. An internal investigation later confirmed electrical failures knocked out both defibrillators during the critical window. The cruise line would later call it an act of God. Brenda died surrounded by millions of dollars of medical technology that failed when she needed it most. The ship continued to Southampton with thousands of passengers and one body on board. Let's move to our second story, where a ship's doctor watched advanced technology lie while passengers fell ill around her. The Norwegian breakaway sailed through calm Caribbean waters, carrying over 4,000 passengers, enjoying what was marketed as the safest cruise experience possible. Inside the medical center, Dr. Rebecca monitored a cutting-edge digital health system using wearables, sensors, and AI to detect illness early. It was March 2020, just as the world began to understand COVID-19. The system showed everything as normal. Green indicators filled the screens. Captain Andrew proudly explained the $12 million system that promised early detection of outbreaks. Dr. Rebecca trusted it too. But passenger Weston already felt off. A mild cough, fatigue. He dismissed it and selected great on his daily health check. What no one knew was that a software update had broken the system. Fever spikes were being averaged out instead of flagged. Nurse Bo noticed something was wrong as passengers with respiratory symptoms began arriving. The digital system showed 0 alerts. Handwritten logs told a different story. Manual checks revealed the truth. The AI had missed everything. Dozens tested positive, hundreds more followed. The ship became a floating outbreak while the system continued reporting perfect health. By the end, 847 passengers and 312 crew members were infected. The AI never once raised an alarm. For 847 passengers, it had delivered the exact opposite. Story 3. Surgery in a storm story involving a surgeon who had to operate in complete darkness when the lights went out mid-incision. Lincoln had been planning this Mediterranean cruise for 2 long years, working double shifts at a busy campus coffee shop and saving every dollar he could. At just 19 years old, the preemed student from Ohio saw this trip as a reward before starting intense MCAT preparation that would decide his future. Like his late father, Lincoln dreamed of becoming a doctor. His roommate Rowan had watched him carefully count their savings, skip meals, and stretch every paycheck just to afford an upgraded ocean view cabin that Lincoln said his dad would have loved. "I can't believe we're really here," Lincoln said to Rowan on their 3rd night aboard the Royal Caribbean Voyager, standing on the balcony as the Mediterranean sun disappeared into the water. "Dad always said the ocean could heal anything. I wish he could see this." Rowan smiled, knowing how much this moment meant to him. Lincoln's father had died of cancer during his sophomore year, leaving behind worn medical textbooks and a son determined to honor him by saving lives. But at 11:30 p.m., that dream nearly ended. Lincoln woke up clutching his right side, screaming in pain. "Rowan, something's wrong," he gasped, his skin pale and soaked with sweat. "It feels like I'm being stabbed." Rowan froze in fear. He had never seen Lincoln like this. Lincoln was tough. He'd played sports through broken bones and worked entire shifts sick just to earn money. Now he was curled on the floor, shaking and crying. Dr. Adrian arrived minutes after the emergency call. The 42-year-old surgeon had spent 15 years practicing medicine at sea, but Lincoln's age and determination struck him deeply. The boy reminded him of his own son. "Tell me where it hurts," Adrian said gently, seeing terror in Lincoln's eyes. "It started after dinner." Lincoln whispered, but now it feels unbearable. Adrian's exam confirmed his fear. Acute appendicitis already close to rupturing. Without immediate surgery, infection could spread and kill Lincoln within hours. We have to operate now, Adrian told him. I know you're scared, but we'll take care of you. As they rushed Lincoln through the ship, Rowan ran beside the gurney, asking again and again if his friend would survive. He's young and strong, Adrian replied, though inside he was worried. Inside the operating room, nurses Pamela and Martha prepared the equipment. Deborah handled anesthesia while Amanda stayed in contact with the bridge. The weather report showed calm seas. Everything looked perfect. Just before drifting unconscious, Lincoln grabbed Adrian's hand. Don't let me die, he whispered. I haven't done anything yet. I haven't saved anyone like my dad. Those words hit Adrian hard. This wasn't just surgery. This was a future resting in his hands. The operation began smoothly. Bright surgical lights illuminated everything clearly, but unknown to them, the ship was sailing straight into an unexpected storm the weather systems had missed. Lincoln lay unconscious, his infected appendix exposed, when the first massive wave struck. The ship lurched violently. Adrian grabbed the table to keep from falling, just rough seas. Amanda said over the intercom, but Adrian felt dread settle in his chest. The ship's motion grew worse. Instruments slid across tables. I can't keep anything steady, Martha shouted, scrambling to retrieve tools. Adrian stared at Lincoln's open body as the ship rocked. He trusted me, he thought, and I can't even keep my hands steady. The storm intensified rapidly. Each wave made precise movements nearly impossible. Adrian fought not only to finish the surgery, but to prevent further injury. Focus, he told himself, you've done this for years. But his hands shook from the violent motion. Deborah announced Lincoln's blood pressure was rising. Panic crept in, then disaster struck. A massive rogue wave slammed into the ship, throwing Adrian into the table. His elbow hit Lincoln's abdomen. Something tore, massive bleeding. Pamela shouted as blood poured out. Adrian stared in horror. He had torn Lincoln's mesenteric artery, a mistake that could kill him within minutes. I did this, Adrian thought. I'm supposed to save him. He froze as Lincoln's blood soaked the table. Doctor, we need to act now, Martha urged. Adrian forced himself to move. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. New disturbing stories are uploaded regularly, and the next one might stay with you longer than you expect. Turn on notifications, join the community, and stay tuned for more unsettling tales. I need everyone to brace me, he ordered. Pamela and Martha stabilized him as he tried to repair the damage. Each wave threatened to undo his work. Blood soaked his gloves, his hands cramped from gripping tools too tightly. How long? Adrian asked. 43 minutes, Deborah answered. Adrian had never felt so helpless. Outside, Rowan paced the hallway, pressing his ear to the door, praying to hear something. Inside, Adrian fought the storm for 3 brutal hours. When the bleeding was finally controlled and the appendix removed, Lincoln had lost enormous amounts of blood. As the ship steadied, Adrian watched the monitor as Lincoln's heartbeat slowly strengthened. He would live, but the damage caused nerve injury that wouldn't show until later. At dawn, Adrian emerged to find Rowan waiting. Rowan couldn't finish. He's alive, Adrian said, but the storm caused complications. He may not regain full control of his right side. Rowan stared in shock. What does that mean? Adrian answered quietly. His dream of becoming a surgeon may be over. Days later, as Lincoln recovered, Adrian visited constantly. He watched Lincoln realize the truth during therapy. On their final day before port, Lincoln spoke softly. My dad always said doctors make impossible choices. Adrian broke down. You saved my life. Lincoln said, in that storm, my dad would have been proud. Adrian never forgot that night. 6 months later, a letter arrived. Lincoln had switched to biomedical engineering. I can't be a surgeon, he wrote, but maybe I can design better tools. Adrian kept that letter with him. but when storms rock the ship at night, he still hears Lincoln's voice. "Don't let me die. I haven't done anything yet." The Mediterranean tested them both. One lost a dream and found another path. The other saved a life and gained a memory that would haunt him forever. Let's move to our fourth story 4, the smartwatch that predicted her death, about a passenger whose smartwatch detected death approaching hours before anyone would listen. Stephanie had planned this Caribbean cruise as the perfect family escape. At 34, the software engineer from Seattle had spent months saving to give her husband Ian and their 8-year-old son Kai a full week of rest and happiness aboard the Celebrity Edge. What she never planned for was the crushing chest pain that tore her out of sleep at 3:00 a.m. On their third night at sea, the pain felt like a heavy weight pressing down on her chest, spreading into her left arm in waves that stole her breath and left her shaking. Stephanie had read about heart attacks, especially how they present differently in women. This felt exactly like what she'd learned. She shook Ian awake, her voice tight and afraid. "Something's wrong." She whispered, "My chest. I think I'm having a heart attack." Ian sat up instantly. His wife was pale, soaked in sweat, breathing fast and shallow. "We're going to the medical center now," he said, helping her up as carefully as he could. Kai woke during the rush, confused and scared. "Is Mommy okay?" he asked, watching her lean against the cabin wall just to stay upright. Dr. Christian was on night duty when they arrived at the ship's medical center. The 45-year-old doctor had spent 8 years practicing cruise ship medicine and had handled many cardiac scares. He listened carefully as Stephanie described her symptoms. "It started about 20 minutes ago," she said, wincing as another wave of pain hit. "Crushing chest pain, arm pain, trouble breathing, exactly like women's heart attacks." Dr. Christian ran an EKG. It came back normal. Her blood pressure was slightly high but not dangerous. Her heart rhythm looked steady. "Mrs. Stephanie," he said calmly, "your heart appears fine. On cruise ships, symptoms like this are often caused by anxiety or digestive issues. Rich food, travel stress, acid reflux." Stephanie shook her head. "I've never felt anything like this. Something is really wrong." He gave her antacids and a mild sedative, explaining that severe acid reflux can perfectly mimic heart attack symptoms. In cruise medicine, 90% of suspected heart attacks turn out to be anxiety or indigestion. He said, "Your tests are normal. Try to rest." Ian felt relieved. Stephanie did not. Back in their cabin, the pain eased slightly, but something felt off. She was weak in a way she'd never felt before. Dizzy. Over the next 12 hours, her condition changed strangely. She would feel almost normal for short periods, then suddenly shaky and drained. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. New disturbing stories are uploaded regularly, and the next one might stay with you longer than you expect. Turn on notifications, join the community, and stay tuned for more unsettling tales. Her hands trembled. She craved sugar constantly. Nurse Carolyn saw her twice that day, once when Stephanie became dizzy at lunch, and again when she felt close to passing out. Each time, her basic vitals looked fine. The symptoms were blamed on anxiety and overeating. "Some passengers just don't adjust well to ship life," Carolyn explained to Ian after the third visit. "Rich food, alcohol, poor sleep, travel stress." But Ian wasn't convinced. His wife was normally energetic and healthy. Kai noticed too. He asked why Mommy kept sitting down and why she wouldn't eat her favorite desserts. Medical coordinator Marie became involved when Stephanie returned for the 4th time in 18 hours. This time, her vision was blurred and her thoughts felt slow. "I can't think clearly," she said. "It's like my brain is foggy." Marie felt something was wrong. The symptoms didn't fit anxiety or indigestion. They felt metabolic. "Have you ever been tested for diabetes?" she asked. Stephanie shook her head. She was young, active, and a healthy weight. No one had ever suggested it. The ship's medical center had limited tools. No advanced monitoring, only basic finger-stick blood sugar tests. When Carolyn checked, the reading was 180 mg/dl, elevated but not critical. That's borderline, Dr. Christian said, probably stress and sugar intake. Marie insisted on repeating it 2 hours later. This time it was 340 mg/dl, dangerously high. She's in diabetic crisis, and Marie said quietly. The truth finally snapped into place. Stephanie had been slipping into diabetic ketoacidosis for over 24 hours while being treated for anxiety. The ship wasn't equipped to handle severe diabetic emergencies. They had basic insulin but no intensive monitoring. Stephanie needed immediate evacuation, but they were hundreds of miles from port. Why didn't anyone check this earlier? Ian demanded as the team scrambled. Kai sat silently, watching strangers rush around his mother. Doctor, Christian looked shaken. Crew's medicine is limited. He said, we see anxiety constantly. Sometimes we miss the real emergencies. Her age didn't fit the pattern. The Coast Guard was contacted, but worsening weather made helicopter evacuation impossible. For the next 8 hours, Stephanie remained in critical condition as her blood chemistry spiraled. Passenger Christine, an ICU nurse on vacation, volunteered to help. Without proper equipment, she said, we're flying blind. Stephanie drifted in and out of consciousness. Ian held her hand while Kai asked over and over if Mommy would be okay. No one could answer. When the ship finally reached San Juan 18 hours after the crisis began, paramedics rushed her to the hospital. ER doctors were shocked. She should have been evacuated yesterday, one said. Stephanie spent 4 days in intensive care. The delay caused permanent damage, kidney problems, nerve damage. Ian struggled with anger and understanding. They treated symptoms, not causes. He told Marie, Doctor, Christian was deeply shaken. I've never missed a diabetic emergency this badly, he admitted. Kai was traumatized. For months, he woke at night asking if Mommy's sugar was okay. Stephanie returned to Seattle alive, but insulin-dependent, living with lifelong complications. The cruise line cited atypical presentation and limited shipboard diagnostics. But for her family, 18 hours of misdiagnosis changed everything. Later, Christine told Stephanie her case led to better testing protocols, but that didn't erase the truth. A simple blood test could have prevented it all. Ian still wonders what if they'd pushed harder, what if they'd trusted her instincts, what if cruise ships were truly prepared for real emergencies. The celebrity edge sails on, but Stephanie's family knows the reality of cruise ship medicine. It's built for comfort, not hidden life, threatening emergencies that wear the mask of anxiety. Story 5, The Poisoning Cover-Up. Let's move to our 5th story about a passenger who uncovered a terrifying secret, that the ship's own medical team was intentionally making people sick to hide their mistakes. Theo had spent 23 years working as a health inspector for Minneapolis County before retiring. At 52, he could spot food safety problems instantly, trace contamination by smell alone, and recognize the warning signs of deliberate poisoning that most people would never notice. This Alaskan cruise with his son Walker was meant to be a peaceful reward after decades of protecting public health. He never imagined those same skills would be the only thing keeping him alive. The Norwegian Star was 2 days into its inside passage route when Theo noticed something was wrong. During breakfast, he observed a nearby family, parents and their teenage daughter, looking pale, nauseous, barely touching their food. Food poisoning, Theo thought automatically, but something didn't add up. The timing was too precise. The symptoms were too similar. His professional instincts took over as he watched more passengers throughout the day. By lunchtime, he had counted 17 people showing the same early signs of stomach distress. All had eaten at specific dining locations. All showed symptoms on the exact same timeline. Dad, you're doing it again. Walker said, noticing his father's intense stare across the dining room. You're retired. Try to relax. But Theo couldn't ignore what he was seeing. 23 years of investigating outbreaks told him this wasn't accidental. This wasn't random contamination. Someone was poisoning passengers deliberately, following a controlled pattern. That evening, Theo quietly approached one of the sick couples. Janet and her husband looked miserable after what was supposed to be a romantic dinner. "Excuse me," Theo said gently. "I'm a retired health inspector. You both look like you might have food poisoning. Have you visited the medical center?" Janet nodded weakly. "Dr. Aaron said it was seasickness. He gave us pills and told us to rest." Seasickness doesn't appear all at once in multiple passengers, Theo thought, and experienced ship doctors know that. The next morning, Theo visited the medical center himself, pretending to have mild nausea. Dr. Aaron, a 48-year-old physician, barely looked up as Theo explained his symptoms. "Seasickness is very common," Aaron said dismissively, offering no real examination. He handed Theo a small bottle of medication without asking detailed questions or running tests. "No exam, no concern, just pills," Theo noted. Either the doctor was dangerously careless, or he already knew what was causing the sickness. Theo didn't take the medication. Instead, he began investigating. Using his health inspector background, Theo convinced crew members to let him into food service areas, claiming he was documenting best practices for a retirement presentation. What he discovered near the ship's medical waste disposal made his blood run cold. Dozens of empty vials of ipecac syrup, a substance that causes violent nausea and vomiting, were mixed in with normal medical waste, enough to make dozens of people sick. Someone on the medical team is poisoning passengers, Theo realized. But why? Later that night, Theo approached Catherine, a medical technician working late in the pharmacy. His authority still carried weight, and after some hesitation, she admitted the truth. "Doctor, Aaron had been ordering strange amounts of anti-nausea medication and requesting ipecac for emergencies that made no medical sense." As Theo dug deeper, the horrifying truth became clear. Nurse Frances had been secretly adding ipecac to selected passengers' food. Families with children, couples on romantic dinners, anyone likely to complain, they were creating medical emergencies on purpose, then treating them. Sick passengers were grateful passengers. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. New disturbing stories are uploaded regularly, and the next one might stay with you longer than you expect. Turn on notifications, join the community, and stay tuned for more unsettling tales. They believed the medical team had saved them. But the real goal was darker. Medical coordinator Silas had been recording these successful treatments to hide a series of malpractice cases from earlier cruises. The staff was poisoning people to create fake success records, covering up past negligence with manufactured illness. When Theo confronted Nurse Anne privately, she broke down and confessed everything. Dr. Aaron had ordered them to improve their medical success statistics. The cruise line was investigating malpractice claims from previous voyages. So the staff poisoned passengers, treated the symptoms, and used the recovery reports as proof of competence. They were committing assault to hide negligence. When Theo tried to report this to ship security, he discovered Aaron had already moved against him. The doctor had accessed Theo's passenger records and learned about his background. "Mr. Theo has been spreading false accusations," Aaron told security. "He's showing signs of paranoia, possibly early dementia. I recommend medical supervision." Walker watched in horror as security tried to escort his father to the medical bay. Theo understood immediately. Aaron planned to drug him, silence him, and declare him mentally unstable. The ship's isolation turned into a prison. With no way to contact authorities and security believing the medical staff, Theo was trapped. With Walker's help, Theo escaped and hid in the lower decks, but Aaron had already marked other passengers, Janet and others who might support Theo. "They're going to drug everyone who believes me," Theo whispered. They can't let this come out. Theo soon realized the entire medical department was involved. Catherine altered pharmacy records. Francis poisoned food. Silas falsified reports. This wasn't one bad doctor. It was a system. Aaron announced over the intercom that Theo was experiencing a medical emergency and that anyone helping him would face consequences. Walker was forced to choose between turning in his father or helping expose a deadly conspiracy. The confrontation came when Theo contaminated Aaron's personal coffee with the same ipecac. As Aaron violently vomited in the main dining hall, Theo shouted the truth to hundreds of passengers. This is what you've been doing, poisoning people to fake medical success. Before Aaron could fully confess, Francis injected Theo with a sedative, claiming he was having a psychiatric episode. As Theo lost consciousness, he realized the truth had come too late. Walker watched helplessly as his father collapsed. The Norwegian Star continued toward Alaska with Theo unconscious in the medical bay, his life now controlled by the very people who had tried to kill him. Later investigations revealed the medical staff had poisoned over 200 passengers across multiple cruises. Theo's expertise uncovered a system where healing had turned into harm, but for him, discovery came too late. The people meant to protect passengers had become the greatest danger of all. Let's move to our sixth story. Story 6. The system decided his children didn't need to be saved about a captain who found his daughter's life jackets floating empty while rescue boats circled helplessly overhead. Captain Jonathan had commanded cruise ships for 28 years, but this voyage was different. His 16-year-old twin daughters, Emma and Sophia, were on board celebrating graduation. At 54, he wanted to show them his world. Instead, he would face the worst choice a father could ever imagine. The engine room fire started at 2:17 a.m., triggering evacuation protocols. Jonathan's blood ran cold when he realized his daughters were sleeping on Deck 6, assigned to Lifeboat 12. "Sir, the lifeboat systems aren't responding. The first officer reported. None of them are deploying. Jonathan's training told him to stay on the bridge. His heart told him his daughters were trapped." He ran toward Deck 6, but the ship's severe tilt stopped him on Deck 4. Over the radio, he heard Emma's terrified voice. "Dad, the lifeboat won't come down. The water looks so far away." The truth was worse than a malfunction. The evacuation system had been updated with efficiency protocols designed to reduce costs. The computer had decided the situation didn't justify full deployment. Everett offered the only option left: cut the locks manually. The boats would drop uncontrollably. Jonathan faced the impossible choice: a slow death or an instant one. "Cut the locks," he ordered. Lifeboat 12 dropped violently. Passengers were thrown. Sarah, a terrified young woman, was slammed into metal, her skull cracking. The boat flipped into the Atlantic upside down. Emma and Sophia were trapped inside. Rescue came too late. Divers found the twins in the final air pocket, holding hands. Emma had used her life jacket to keep Sophia afloat until the air ran out. Jonathan pulled his daughters' bodies from the water himself. Their graduation bracelets were still on their wrists. He never returned to the sea. The investigation later confirmed the system had valued efficiency over human life. But for Jonathan, no explanation could erase their final radio call asking why the lifeboat wouldn't come down. These 6 stories from the high seas remind us that peaceful vacations can turn into nightmares without warning. From medical betrayal to system failures, cruise ships hold dangers most passengers never consider. If these stories disturbed you, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Which story shook you the most? Let us know in the comments, and remember, the next time you step aboard a cruise ship, you'll never see those safety drills the same way again. Stay safe out there. Let's move to our 8. Story 7. Story ending with a doctor whose life saving equipment turned into instruments of terror. Chief Medical Officer's log. Emergency protocol activated. Every monitor is lying. Ventilators are stopping. Heart machines show flat lines for healthy patients. Someone has weaponized our medical equipment against our patients. Axel had served as chief medical officer aboard luxury cruise ships for over 12 years, but nothing in her medical training prepared her for the nightmare that began at 3:17 a.m., the moment the ship's medical equipment seemed to turn against her patients. The Ocean Serenity state-of-the-art medical facility was advertised as one of the most advanced at sea, filled with cutting-edge computerized machines all connected to a central system designed to save lives faster and more efficiently than ever before. What Axel slowly realized with growing dread was that someone had found a way to turn every single life-saving machine into a silent and precise weapon. The first clear sign that something was terribly wrong came when patient Aaron's heart monitor suddenly showed a flatline. The 55-year-old man was awake, speaking clearly and joking nervously with staff. He had been admitted only for routine monitoring after mild chest discomfort during dinner. His real pulse was steady, his breathing normal, yet every machine connected to him insisted he was clinically dead. "Doctor, something's wrong with the equipment," Nurse Theo said, her voice tight with unease. "Aaron's heart monitor shows no pulse, but I can feel it clearly. The blood pressure cuff says 0, but he's sitting up and talking." Axel's training told her this had to be a malfunction, a software error, something explainable. But her instincts told her something far darker was unfolding. All the ship's medical devices were linked through a centralized system that handled monitoring, alerts, and even automated medication delivery. If someone had gained control of that network, they could control who lived and who died. That fear became reality when Dr. Silas, the ship's surgeon, was preparing for an emergency appendectomy on patient Walker. Without warning, every machine in the operating theater began malfunctioning at once. The anesthesia machine started delivering dangerously high doses, while the heart-lung bypass system shifted into settings that could cause permanent brain damage. "The equipment is going crazy, Doctor." Silas shouted over the medical intercom. "I need manual backups now. The systems are trying to kill my patient." There were almost no manual backups. The medical bay had been designed around automation, efficiency, and trust in software. Everything depended on the network, and now that network was hostile. Head nurse Jonathan tried to monitor patients manually, while screens displayed false readings that could trick staff into making deadly decisions. Diabetic patient Emmett's insulin pump showed perfect glucose levels while secretly preparing to release a massive dose of insulin, enough to cause fatal hypoglycemia. "The machines are lying to us," Axel announced over the medical bay's system. "Assume every reading is false. Assume every automated function is dangerous. Treat our own equipment like it's trying to harm our patients." Medical assistant Milo soon uncovered the horrifying truth. The system wasn't just showing incorrect data. It was actively creating medical emergencies while disguising them as natural failures. Elderly patient Everett's pacemaker began receiving signals that could trigger lethal heart rhythms. The device meant to stabilize his heart was now causing the very condition it was designed to prevent. Guest services manager Micah rushed into the medical bay as panic spread across the ship. "Passengers are collapsing everywhere," she told Axel. "People with pacemakers, insulin pumps, medical devices. Everything is failing at the same time." The captain called an emergency meeting as the scale of the crisis became undeniable. Security reported that this wasn't random. The medical systems were being targeted deliberately, aimed at the most vulnerable passengers. Ryan, the systems manager, worked desperately to isolate the medical network, but every attempt triggered built-in emergency protocols. "They've trapped the system," he explained. "If we shut it down, patients on life support could die. If we leave it running, the equipment will kill them anyway." Chief Engineer Carson tried to physically disconnect the network, but discovered the horrifying design flaw. Many life support systems couldn't function without constant connectivity. Manual operation was nearly impossible. Communications Officer George attempted to contact emergency medical services on shore, only to realize those systems had also been compromised. False emergency signals were being sent, capable of misdirecting rescue teams and spreading dangerous misinformation. Axel made the most chilling discovery of all: the attack was carefully designed to look natural. Surgical patient Louise appeared to suffer routine complications, but Axel suspected the equipment had caused them. Pregnant passenger Declan went into premature labor after fetal monitors sent false distress alerts, triggering unnecessary and dangerous interventions. "This isn't random," Axel told Dr. Silas between crises. "They've studied our protocols. They program the machines to create problems that justify lethal treatments. They're using our own knowledge against us." The psychological terror spread fast. Nurses no longer trusted dosing systems. Doctors doubted vital signs. Every decision became a gamble with someone's life. FBI Medical Crimes Unit Agent Sawyer confirmed their worst fears. This was a new kind of bioterrorism. Medical technology itself had been turned into a weapon. Expert analysis revealed the attack had been planned months in advance. Malicious code had been planted directly into medical devices during manufacturing. Every machine had arrived already compromised. Biomedical engineer Ryder helped staff operate machines manually, revealing a terrifying truth. Most modern doctors had never been trained to do so. Automation had replaced fundamental skills. The crisis peaked when Aaron's heart monitor triggered an automatic defibrillation sequence that could have stopped his healthy heart. Axel physically ripped the device free just in time. His death would have looked like a tragic accident. Emergency supplies arrived by helicopter, but the damage was done. Patients suffered permanent harm. Trust was destroyed. The attackers, calling themselves digital Hippocrates, claimed they were exposing the dangers of over-automated medicine. Axel's medical log became key evidence in the largest medical terrorism case in history. Survivors developed lasting fear of medical devices. Many staff never returned to practice. New regulations followed, but confidence was never restored. Years later, Axel now teaches hospitals how to survive without machines. Because when technology meant to heal turns hostile, medicine becomes helpless. This concludes our journey through 8 technology disasters that transformed cruise ship dreams into digital nightmares. From AI systems that interpreted screams as applause to medical equipment that tried to murder patients, these stories reveal the dark side of our connected world, where every convenience comes with invisible dangers, and every system designed to protect us can be turned into a weapon against us. These 8 stories reveal a terrifying truth about our modern world. The very technology we trust to make life easier can instantly become our greatest enemy. Every cruise ship sailing today carries thousands of passengers who believe their smart devices, entertainment systems, and medical equipment will keep them safe. But as we've seen, one corrupted line of code, one malicious hacker, or one system failure can turn paradise into a nightmare. The scariest part, these aren't science fiction scenarios. They're glimpses into vulnerabilities that exist right now in our connected world. Every time you step aboard a modern cruise ship, you're surrounded by thousands of computerized systems that could malfunction or be weaponized at any moment. If these technology horror stories gave you chills, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this video with someone who thinks modern technology is always safe. They need to know the dark truth about our digital world. Drop a comment below. Which story terrified you the most? The AI that misunderstood screams as applause, or the medical equipment that tried to murder patients? And remember, next time you see a smart device promising to make your life better, ask yourself what happens when that intelligence turns against you. Stay safe out there, and thanks for watching.